shrill alarm. Lieutenant Commander Priya Sharma jolted awake at her console, her neck stiff from falling asleep during the midnight shift. For a moment, she was disoriented, blinking at the flashing red warning on her screen. "Not another false alarm," she muttered, reaching for her cold coffee. But as her eyes focused on the readings, the cup froze halfway to her lips. The coffee spilled onto her uniform as she set it down with shaking hands. "Computer, verify signal," she whispered, heart suddenly racing. "Signal verified," came the cool response. "Unknown origin. Pattern suggests artificial construction. Approaching solar system at velocity exceeding known technological capabilities." Priya's fingers flew across the keyboard, running additional scans. The object was massive, nearly a kilometer long, and moving in a way that defied the laws of physics as humans understood them. She hesitated for only a second before hitting the emergency protocol button. In the 6 years she'd worked at this remote station, she had never once triggered it. Many would think she was overreacting, but Priya knew what she was seeing. Humanity wasn't alone anymore. Within 3 hours, the Chinese, American, and European space agencies had all confirmed her readings. Within 5, an emergency United Earth Nations Council had convened. By hour 12, Priya found herself aboard the hastily dispatched UN Pathfinder, the most advanced spacecraft humanity had ever built, racing toward the outer edges of the solar system. "Commander Sharma," Captain Reynolds nodded as she entered the bridge. "Care to explain why I was pulled from my daughter's birthday party to chase your ghost?" Priya straightened her back. "It's no ghost, sir. The object has adjusted course 3 times, each adjustment precisely calculated to intercept Earth orbit. Natural objects don't do that." Reynolds studied her for a long moment. "You realize the implications if you're right." "I do, sir. Everything changes today." The tension on the ship grew as they approached the coordinates. Most of the crew were military personnel who had trained for countless scenarios, but not this one. How could anyone train for first contact? Priya stood at the viewport, watching as the ship's lights illuminated the darkness ahead. At first, there was nothing. Then, slowly, a massive form emerged from the blackness of space. "My God," someone whispered behind her. The vessel, for it was clearly a vessel, was unlike anything they could have imagined. It resembled no human design, with curves and angles that seemed to shift when viewed from different perspectives. Its surface gleamed with symbols or markings that appeared to move when she looked at them directly, only to become still when she tried to focus. "No radio emissions," reported the communications officer. "No heat signatures. It appears to be dormant." "Are we even sure it's a ship?" Reynolds asked. Priya nodded slowly. "Those are propulsion systems at the rear. And those," she pointed to several protrusions along the hull, "appear to be sensor arrays. This is a ship built by intelligent beings." "Sir," the communications officer's voice rose in pitch, "we're receiving a transmission." "From the vessel?" Reynolds demanded. "Yes, sir. It's in English." Every head on the bridge turned toward the main screen as it flickered to life. There were no images, no alien faces, just a simple text message written in perfect English. "The last guardians have fallen. You are the inheritors now. Help us." The bridge erupted in confused chatter. Reynolds called for silence. "Commander Sharma, your thoughts?" he asked quietly. Priya stared at the message, a chill running down her spine. They knew we were coming. They prepared this message specifically for us. "But what does it mean?" Reynolds pressed. Of its hull sliding open to reveal what appeared to be a docking bay. "It's inviting us in," Priya whispered. Reynolds looked from the alien ship to Priya and back again. The weight of humanity's future seemed to rest on his next decision. "Prepare a boarding team," he ordered finally. "Full environmental suits, weapons secure but accessible." He turned to Priya. "You found this thing, Commander. You're going with them." As Priya suited up, her mind raced with questions. Who were these guardians? What had happened to them? And what exactly were humans inheriting? 1 hour later, she stood at the airlock, about to take a step that would forever change human history. The team behind her waited in nervous silence. "Ready?" asked Lieutenant Park, the team leader. Priya took a deep breath and nodded. "Let's meet our neighbors." The boarding team moved cautiously through the alien ship's corridors, their flashlights cutting through the dim blue glow that seemed to pulse from the walls themselves. Priya walked slightly ahead, drawn forward by something she couldn't explain, a feeling almost like a whisper in her mind. "Anyone else feel that?" she asked, her voice hushed inside her helmet. "Feel what?" Lieutenant Park asked, scanning the hallway with his light. "Like something's calling us, pulling us deeper." The team exchanged nervous glances, but no one else admitted to feeling the same sensation. The air inside the ship was breathable. Their suits had confirmed that immediately, but protocol demanded they remain sealed until they understood more about the environment. "It's dead ahead," Priya said suddenly, pointing to a large circular door at the end of the corridor, though no one had asked where they should go. Lieutenant Park gave her a strange look but nodded. "Zhao, Hansen, keep watch at this junction. The rest of you with me." The door slid open silently as they approached. Inside was a vast chamber, far larger than seemed possible from the ship's external dimensions. At its center floated a glowing crystalline structure, pulsing with inner light. When Priya stepped toward it, the crystal flared brightly. Without warning, images flooded her mind. Stars exploding in silent fury, planets cracking apart, strange ships pursuing others across the blackness of space, and behind it all, a darkness spreading like ink through water across a map of the galaxy. She fell to her knees, gasping. "Commander." Park was at her side, steadying her. "What happened?" "They're gone," she managed, her voice shaking. "All of them. An entire civilization." "Who?" "The aliens who built this ship." Priya nodded, her eyes still unfocused. "They called themselves the Luminary. They were guardians, protectors of younger species." She looked up at the crystal, her expression haunted. Something hunted them to extinction. Park helped her to her feet. "How do you know this?" "The crystal showed me. It's not just a data storage device. It's an interface. It communicates directly with your mind." 2 days later, back on Earth, scientists confirmed Priya's assessment. The crystalline structure contained vast amounts of data, scientific knowledge, star charts, historical records, and technology schematics far beyond human understanding. But only Priya could access it fully. When others approached, the crystal remained dormant or provided only basic information. In a secured facility beneath Geneva, Priya sat across from General Winters and the UN Security Council. The weight of what she had learned pressed down on her like a physical force. "They called them the Void," she explained, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "Not a species exactly, more like a collective. They've destroyed thousands of worlds over the past 10,000 years." "And the Luminary fought them?" asked the Chinese representative. Priya nodded. "For millennia. They were the advanced species of their time, sworn to protect developing civilizations. But the Void kept growing stronger, consuming more worlds. The Luminary were losing. So they sent this ship to us." "Why?" General Winters leaned forward. "They didn't send it to us specifically. They sent ships to dozens of promising worlds before they fell. Each ship contained the sum of their knowledge and technology. They hoped that at least one species would be ready when the ship arrived." "Ready for what?" asked the African Union representative. The Luminary believed that the Void would eventually find every intelligent species in the galaxy. "Our only hope is to be prepared when they come." A heavy silence fell over the room. "And how long do we have?" General Winters finally asked. Before Priya could answer, an aide rushed into the room and whispered urgently in his ear. The color drained from the general's face. "It seems," he said slowly, "that we may have less time than we thought. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual activity at the edge of our solar system. Multiple objects, moving at high speed." The room erupted in panicked conversation, but Priya sat very still, feeling the weight of the crystal's knowledge inside her mind. They have found us, just as the crystal had warned. Now humanity had to decide if they would run, hide, or fight. "Captain Sharma, the Phoenix is ready for your inspection," the young engineer reported, standing at attention despite the dark circles under her eyes. Everyone on the project had been working 20-hour days for months. Priya nodded, still unused to her new rank. 6 months had transformed her from an observatory technician to humanity's best hope. Sometimes she caught her reflection in a window or screen and didn't recognize the person staring back. Thinner, harder, with a constant furrow between her brows. "Lead the way, Lieutenant Chen," she said, following the engineer through the massive underground hangar. The ship before them was unlike anything humans had built before. Its sleek, curved hull incorporated both Earth metals and strange alloys created from the luminary crystal's specifications. What had once been impossible was now merely difficult, thanks to the knowledge they'd inherited. The Phoenix was humanity's answer to extinction, part human ingenuity, part alien technology. A desperate gamble built by the finest minds Earth could assemble. "The hybrid drive is installed and calibrated," Lieutenant Chen explained as they walked around the vessel. "Theoretical speeds exceed anything we've achieved before. If the math is correct, we could reach Alpha Centauri in just under 3 days." "And the defensive systems?" Priya asked. "Operational, but untested in actual combat conditions." Chen hesitated. "Captain, I have to be honest. We're building with technology we barely understand. There are unknowns. Everything about this mission is an unknown, Lieutenant." Priya placed her hand on the ship's hull, feeling a faint vibration beneath her palm, almost like a heartbeat. Her crew had been assembled with as much haste as the ship, brilliant minds who didn't fit the traditional military mold. Dr. Elias Kari, a physicist whose controversial theories had gotten him laughed out of academia. Zoe Washington, a 19-year-old coding prodigy who had been serving time for hacking government networks before being recruited. Commander Takashi Ito, a pilot with experimental neural implants designed to interface with the ship's hybrid controls. They were misfits, all of them, including Mer, but they were also humanity's best chance. That evening, Priya gathered them in the ship's command center for their final briefing. The room fell silent as she entered. "You all know why we're here," she began, looking at each face. "The void has been detected at the edge of our system. Based on their current trajectory and speed, Earth has approximately 3 months before they arrive in force." She activated the main display, showing the data they had gathered so far. "Our mission is threefold. First, to test if the Phoenix can outrun and outmaneuver Void scout ships. Second, to search for any surviving alien civilizations that might help us. And third," she paused, "to find a weakness we can exploit when the main fleet arrives." "And if we don't find one?" asked Dr. Kari, his voice quiet but challenging. "Then we keep looking," Priya replied firmly. "The Luminary fought the Void for thousands of years. There must be something they missed, some weakness we can find. Or maybe there isn't," Kari persisted. "Maybe they're simply too powerful." "Then we die trying," Priya said, her eyes hard. "But I refuse to accept that there's no solution." 2 days later, the Phoenix lifted off from Earth on its maiden voyage, carrying the hopes of an entire planet. The test flight was scheduled to take them to the outer reaches of the solar system and back, a simple shakedown cruise to ensure all systems were functioning correctly. They were halfway to Saturn when disaster struck. "Captain, to the bridge." Commander Ito's voice crackled over the intercom, tight with urgency. Priya was there in seconds, strapping into her command chair as alarms blared throughout the ship. his hands flying over the controls. Appeared out of nowhere at our 10 o'clock. They've already fired once. On the main screen, a dark, angular vessel was turning toward them, its surface seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Evasive maneuvers, Priya ordered. Already trying, Ito grimaced. They're faster than we calculated. We can't outrun them. The Phoenix shuddered as his second shot grazed their shields. Priya's mind raced. They weren't ready for this confrontation. Not yet. But sometimes you didn't get to choose your battles. She reached for the crystal embedded in the command console, a fragment of the larger one, connected to her in ways the scientists still didn't understand. The connection flowed through her like electricity as she touched it. We don't need to outrun it, she whispered, sudden clarity filling her mind. We need to outsmart it. The Phoenix emerged from hyperspace near a dense cluster of asteroids, its hull still bearing scorch marks from the encounter with the Void scout ship. Their narrow escape had proven the ship's capabilities, but at a cost. 2 crew members injured and power systems strained to their limits. Priya stood on the bridge, watching the asteroid field on the main screen. According to the Luminary Crystal's star charts, somewhere within this jumble of space rock was a small colony of survivors, a species called the Tethrani who had escaped the fall of their homeworld centuries ago. Life signs? She asked softly. Nothing yet, Captain, replied Zoe from her station. The young woman's fingers danced across her console, but there's significant electromagnetic interference. Could be natural, could be deliberate. Deliberate, Priya said with certainty. She felt it through her connection to the crystal, a prickling awareness of intelligence nearby. They're hiding. She stepped forward. Open a general broadcast channel, all frequencies. When the communications officer nodded, Priya spoke clearly into the silence. This is Captain Priya Sharma of the Earth vessel Phoenix. We come seeking allies against the Void. We mean no harm. For long moments, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the asteroid field shifted. What they had taken for a particularly large rock began to move, revealing itself as a camouflaged structure. A small ship detached from it and approached cautiously. They're hailing us, the communications officer reported, surprise evident in his voice. The screen flickered to life, showing a being with gray-blue skin and large, multifaceted eyes. When it spoke, the ship's translation systems converted its clicks and whistles into English. You bring danger here, the alien accused, its eyes shifting colors in what Priya sensed was anger or fear. The Void follows everywhere. The marked go. Priya stepped forward. The marked. Those who carry luminary technology. The alien's eyes flashed toward the crystal embedded in the Phoenix's control console. They can sense it across light years. You have doomed us by coming here. We bring hope, Priya countered, approaching the view screen. We've adapted the technology in ways the Luminary never tried. We've already escaped one of their scout ships. The alien made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret, perhaps disbelief or scorn. After tense negotiations, the Tethrani leader, who called himself Sandar, agreed to meet aboard a neutral location, a small trading outpost hidden within a hollowed asteroid. Priya took only Dr. Kauri and Commander Ito with her, leaving the Phoenix at a safe distance. Inside the outpost, they discovered not only Tethrani but 3 other alien species living in a fragile coalition. All were refugees, survivors of worlds consumed by the Void. You humans are young, Sandar told them as they sat in a cramped meeting chamber. You still believe there can be victory. We learned centuries ago that only those who hide survive. And is that living? Priya asked. Always hiding, always afraid. Before Xandar could answer, a Tethrani rushed into the chamber, chittering urgently. Sandar turned to them, his skin paling. A transmission from your planet. It's been intercepted by our long-range communicators. Moments later, they watched in horror as an emergency broadcast from Earth played on a small projector. The images showed void ships, dozens of them, descending into Earth's atmosphere. The attack had begun weeks earlier than their calculations had predicted. "They always win," a small alien from another species whispered from the corner. "We have hidden for centuries while countless worlds burned." Priya looked at her human companions. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. Something clicked into place in her mind. "That's the difference between us," she realized aloud. "Humans don't know when to quit." She turned to address the room of alien survivors. "The Void has never faced humanity before. We've spent our entire history fighting, often against each other, yes, but also against every obstacle nature has thrown at us. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and our own worst impulses. We refused to die out when logic said we should have." Dr. Cowrie stepped forward. "Captain, we need to return to Earth immediately." Priya nodded, but before they could leave, she felt a strange sensation. The crystal aboard the Phoenix was calling to her, showing her something new. That night, as the aliens argued among themselves about whether to flee deeper into uncharted space, Priya experienced a vision unlike any before, not of the past, but of a possible future. A weakness in the Void's network. "We're going home," she announced at dawn, her eyes clear and focused. "And we're going to fight." Earth's defenses were failing when the Phoenix returned. The once blue sky was darkened by the massive shadows of void ships, their strange geometries blotting out the sun like artificial eclipses. Military bases around the world reported devastating losses, and civilian casualties were climbing into the millions. The Phoenix slipped through the chaos, using the knowledge Priya had gained from her vision to avoid detection. They landed at the underground facility where their journey had begun, now serving as humanity's last command center. General Winters looked a decade older than when they'd left, his face gaunt with exhaustion. "Captain Sharma," he greeted them, no time wasted on pleasantries. "Tell me you found something useful out there." "Better," Priya replied. "I found their weakness." In the emergency war room, surrounded by the remaining military leaders from nations around the world, Priya explained what the crystal had shown her. "The void ships operate as a hive mind," she said, pointing to the tactical displays showing the enemy vessels. "They're all connected through a central command ship. This one here." She indicated the largest ship hovering over what had once been Geneva. "We've tried hitting that one," a Chinese general objected. "Lost 3 squadrons in the attempt." "You can't destroy it from the outside," Priya explained. "The crystal showed me that their network can be disrupted from within. Their communication system operates on a specific frequency that ties all their ships together. If we can broadcast a counter-frequency from inside the command ship, it will create a cascading failure throughout their fleet." "And how exactly do you propose we get inside their command ship?" Winters asked skeptically. Priya took a deep breath. "We fly the Phoenix directly into it." The plan was simple but likely suicidal. The Phoenix, with its hybrid human-alien technology, would approach the command ship using a sequence of short hyperspace jumps to avoid detection. Once close enough, they would use the luminary crystal to broadcast a specific disruption frequency directly into the Void's network. "This is a one-way mission," Priya told her crew honestly. "I won't order anyone to come." To her surprise, not a single crew member backed out. 24 hours later, the Phoenix launched on its final mission. As they climbed through the atmosphere, void vessels converged on them from all directions. "They know we're coming," Commander Ito whispered from the pilot's seat, his hand steady despite the fear in his voice. "Keep going," Priya ordered, her eyes fixed on the massive command ship growing larger on their view screen. The Phoenix shuddered under enemy fire. Systems failed one by one. In the engine room, Lieutenant Chen died sealing a breach. At weapons control, 2 officers fell when a conduit exploded. The ship was falling apart around them. Just when all seemed lost, something unexpected appeared on their sensors. "Captain," Zoe called out, her voice tight with disbelief. "We've got multiple ships approaching from Sector 7. They're not void ships. On the screen, a ragtag fleet of alien vessels emerged from hyperspace, the refugees from the asteroid colony, led by Xandar's ship. Humans fight when others hide. Xandar's voice crackled over their communication system. Perhaps that is what the galaxy needs now. The alien ships flew interference, drawing void fire away from the Phoenix. The combined attack created the opening they needed. With Commander Ito's skilled piloting, the Phoenix reached the command ship and crashed through its outer hull. In the broken bridge of her dying ship, Priya pulled herself to the command console. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead as she placed both hands on the crystal, now pulsing with blinding light. "For Earth," she whispered, channeling everything she had learned, everything she was, into the crystal. The frequency burst outward like a wave, traveling through the Void's network. Outside, Void ships froze in space, their systems disrupted. Some began to drift aimlessly. Others turned on each other, firing blindly. 3 days later, as rescue teams pulled survivors from the Phoenix's wreckage, Priya stood at a hospital window watching cleanup crews working in the distance. Most of the Void ships had been disabled or destroyed. Those that escaped had fled the solar system. "What happens now?" General Winters asked, joining her at the window. Priya's fingers brushed against the small fragment of crystal she now wore around her neck, the last piece of the luminary legacy. "Now we rebuild," she said quietly, "and then we reach out. There are others out there, hiding in the shadows. They need to know it's possible to fight back." She turned to look at the stars appearing in the evening sky. "This isn't the end," she said with quiet certainty. "It's just our beginning."